Today, the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence, together with 16 other state domestic violence and sexual assault coalitions across the country, filed a lawsuit seeking relief from the unlawful federal restrictions on grants issued by the U.S. Department of Justice Office on Violence Against Women. These new federal grant restrictions pose serious consequences for organizations like ours. They threaten the stability of essential programs that support survivors of domestic and sexual violence, making it nearly impossible for coalitions and our member agencies to operate effectively. These vague and unlawful conditions force us into an unacceptable position: either accept the unlawful conditions or lose the critical funding that keeps survivors safe and helps prevent future violence. Without continued access to this funding, critical services in Rhode Island could be lost. This includes the state's first safe exchange and supervised visitation center for families experiencing domestic abuse, which took nearly 3 years to build. Also at risk is a statewide advocate supporting LGBTQ+ survivors and prevention efforts that engage young men from immigrant and refugee communities as allies in the work to end domestic violence. The foundations of our work, the research, frameworks, and evidence developed over decades, are now under threat. We remain committed to the understanding that domestic violence is a public health and a social justice issue. That understanding is central to our mission. We are deeply concerned about the impact these restrictions will have on historically underserved survivors, including immigrants, LGBTQ+ survivors, Black, Indigenous, people of color communities, undocumented survivors, and survivors with disabilities, who already face higher barriers to safety, justice, and support that is often life-saving. As a coalition, we have worked for nearly 50 years to build and strengthen Rhode Island's response to domestic violence. We strive to be as courageous and resilient as the survivors in our communities as we stand up to protect the safety net for victims and the infrastructure for prevention that we have been collectively building with our member agencies and the broader domestic violence field. We are committed to protecting that progress and standing with the courageous survivors who inspire our work every day. Nearly 1 in 2 Rhode Islanders has experienced domestic violence in their lifetime. 1 in 2. This is not an isolated issue. It affects communities in every part of our state. Now is not the time to scale back services or silence the voices of those most impacted by violence. Now is the time to deepen our support and strengthen our commitment. We will not participate in the erasure of transgender people and survivors. We remain dedicated to serving all survivors because all survivors deserve safety and justice, and we will not waver in that commitment. We remain committed to creating social, cultural, and systemic change, knowing we can prevent domestic violence if we address its root causes. For more than 4 decades, the Coalition has worked to end domestic violence, as our member agencies provide services to victims that center their dignity, empowerment, safety, and confidentiality. We are proud to stand alongside coalitions across the country in opposing these harmful restrictions and in continuing to advocate for justice, safety, and healing for all. We hope you will continue to stand with us. Thank you.